Hello and welcome to Epic Battlecry. This is the place where we cut the graphics early on in the gaming industry today. Of course, this is Monday, the 14th of July.
Is it?
And, you know, this is our second week in our new format. DK, how are you liking it so far? Are you enjoying it?
I am liking it. I like the opportunity to discuss things with you guys that are both news related. Well, we haven't just.
But you never answer our calls except on the days when we're recording. Why?
I know.
You say you love to talk to us, but you
I
never
do love
want
it
to
because I think that the episodes are fun and people have an opportunity to hear something every day. If you guys want more news, by the way, just ask us questions about news or follow us on Twitter because we will be putting out little kind of, hey, what did you think about this news story? And then you could respond with questions. So that was the only complaint, really. Not complaint, but just constructive criticism. Is,
no, but
we like to hear
a lot of people said that.
News.
They're like, hey, we like the new stuff. And like, hey, we like the new stuff too. What we don't like is a week where 2 out of the 4 gauntlet topics are, hey, this game's been delayed.
This is delayed.
Or let's be honest, it was more than 2 most weeks.
So, you know, it's just that's the thing is like, you know, some of those weeks we were really trying to do a lot with a little because there wasn't always a lot of news to discuss, and that's the one thing about
and there won't always be either. I mean, that's the whole point. Is this is great because we could talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. That's the one thing the reason we changed this up is because we really wanted to get bring you guys into the fold even more. And you know, if you want us to talk more about news, just ask us questions about news. Which actually, the question we got today, I think, is a really good one. It comes from Chico de Durazunado. This is why you made me fucking start this week, isn't it, DK?
It's Chico and his friend the Man.
And at Garga Flaps, and he says, at Epic BattleX, what's the real reason behind the successful sales figures for both the PS4 and Xbox One? None of them have even had a heavy title yet. I
was going to say drug dealing mostly, right? I mean, it's mostly because drug dealers need something to do, and they've got extra money to spend, so they buy brand new game consoles.
That's true.
Well, that's a very possible.
What do you think, though?
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.
I know what I think, but what do you think?
I think that just excitement for, if I'm going to answer this legitimately, it's just excitement for the new hardware, excitement about getting that new game hardware, being first. You know, going to the launch event. You know, Tony and I were at the launch event for the Xbox One, at the launch event for the PlayStation 4, and just the kind of participating in the activity, in the lifestyle of being a gamer is a lot of fun for people. As far as there being no heavy titles, I would argue that I think Titanfall on the Xbox One I think that was a pretty big title. I don't think that the PlayStation 4 has had an equivalent title to that yet.
Closest thing's probably Second Son, and I don't think
Second Son is probably that's probably the heavy hitter on the PlayStation 4 right now. So, but that's the thing is that, you know, the newness of the consoles, just, you know, having the new, the flashy, getting in there and being able to experience, experience that hardware even without, you know, some big heavy hitter game like a Destiny or, you know, whatever. That doesn't dissuade all people, but I mean, I think you'll find there's plenty of people. There's tons of people that were like, "I'll wait until next year and pick these up next Christmas when there's actually a decent game catalog for them." I think a lot of people are looking at this kind of the way that your question is phrased, and they're saying, "I'm not going to get a next gen console until there is a heavy hitter or a couple of heavy hitters."
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. DK, what about you? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that the install base and also just the, you know, the excitement level of fans for both the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 were at all-time highs in terms of consoles. Now, I mean, you have your gaming audiences who absolutely loved all these devices over the years, but never has, you know, there been such a high percentage of people who are into consumer electronics picking up home consoles. It's growing every console generation. So you already had a very large install base, basically, is what I'm saying, from the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 that then had an excuse to upgrade or a reason to say, well, the new one's out, so I'm going to get it, despite the fact that it didn't have the software that would, you know, justify it necessarily. Like you mentioned, I think Titanfall on the Xbox front, definitely a system seller. And Infamous and some other games as well on the PS4. But, you know, all in all,
it's more the potential, like what's coming down the road.
That's what I was going to say. All in all, it's the potential. And I think that Sony and Microsoft did a good job kind of selling that potential. And also, the other thing is that potential doesn't mean anything if gaming as a whole isn't a relevant form of entertainment. And also that these devices do a lot more than gaming now too. You know, that was kind of brought on in the last generation. So the idea of these consoles in your living room make a lot more sense than they did. It was a totally different thing when it was just a Super Nintendo or whatever, or Sega Genesis. Now these things actually are media devices, media hubs. They're obviously game consoles first and foremost, depending on who you ask. So there's a bigger audience.
It depends on who's running the Xbox division at the time. Is what it's really dependent upon.
But I think that that's what that contributing to the successful sales figures are all of those factors. It's just gaming is bigger than it's ever been, and there's more people interested not only in the games but also in having a centralized device that's going to do all this other stuff. So Microsoft and Sony are reaping the rewards of that.
Did you say raping the rewards?
Reaping. Yes.
Are you sure?
Well,
yeah, I'm pretty sure, but although I'm worried why you think that it was raping.
Listen, he said raping.
Well, until the price drop, I think Microsoft probably was raping the rewards. But
yeah. I do agree with both of you on that, but I would even go a little stronger on the people were just starving for a new console. I'll be honest, this was the longest time between having consoles. And let's be honest with you, the number, like the example you were given, DK, I do agree with you that is the reason why eventually the numbers will be big, is that whole that the industry is just bigger and year after year. But that doesn't necessarily, I don't think, speak to why people bought them now or at launch. To me, at launch, the only reason is people were starving for new hardware. I mean, we had been living with the same consoles
8 years
for longer than we had ever been.
But I would argue that though, because the games at the end of those console generations were not like bad. You're not like, oh,
no, that's what I'm saying. That has nothing to do with my point. People wanted new hardware. They were so sick of, or not sick of, but they were really wanting to go to the next level. They loved the games that they had. That's why, frankly, you know, a lot of the games we had that last year.
It was about 5 years. Although I mean, it could be shorter or longer. I mean, I think that the distance between the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation 2 was like only 3 years, wasn't it? And then,
most of it's usually about 4 to 5, but like this time it was like 6 and 7 between the PS3 and the Xbox 360. So I mean, there was a much longer period of time, a couple of years difference this time around. So people they were wanting new hardware. Yeah, they didn't want new hardware to play X game necessarily, because like we said, there really haven't been those games out yet. Even the games that people like, the two that we mentioned with, you know, Second Son and Titanfall, came out like 6 months later. So I mean, you couldn't even really argue like they wanted to play that one new game so badly. Like, I mean, to buy them at launch, I mean, it made no sense.
It seems counterintuitive in a way, but I think you're right.
And the idea is, I think a lot of people these days, they know that they're going to want them. So that speaks to, I think, your point of it has become that device that you use for lots of different things. Although, to be honest with you, they've actually, in the PS4's case, taken away a lot of its media functionality, frankly, compared to the PS3. But I mean, so if anything, they're not even as sort of robust in some cases as their previous generation, at least not yet.
What I'm saying is people are used to those devices being serving as that type of stuff. So when a new
that's what I'm saying, though. It does less than your PS3 does right now. But it serves less media functionality than your.
But people are buying it and purchasing based on potential, you know, and
I think we all agree with that. I think that anybody that buys a console at launch as opposed to a year after launch is buying it based on their expectation of potential.
Especially nowadays when you're basically a beta tester for
Look, if you buy a game on launch day, you're basically beta testing that motherfucker.
Yeah. But I will say,
although I would argue, like the Xbox went through so many updates, like the Xbox One, like with the dashboard and like some of the features. I mean, it was half baked when it launched. I mean, the PS4 didn't have a lot of features, but at least they worked.
Half.
Yeah.
Hey, no, but I will say this: if it does come down to just one identifiable factor in terms of just the boost in sales during the launch window, for me, it has to come down to Joe McHale at the VGX and just his ability to make gamers want to game. I mean, for me, that's
and not watch him.
Now that is a good point. They wanted to do anything other than watch him host the VGX.
That's exactly right.
So that definitely did push them towards gaming.
Exactly right.
It also pushed them towards lawn darts and jumping off of bridges.
Oh yeah, it was pretty. Like now that you're not employed there anymore, you can give us the real skinny, like behind the scenes.
Is that the reason that they had to lay off so many people?
Like,
because
what
of
was
VGX?
being said? Like, were people just looking at each other and going, "What the fuck did we do?"
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah,
pretty much. So there you go.
All right.
Garga Flaps.
Anyway, that does it for today. We're going to be back tomorrow with another great question, I think. So make sure you get them in there so we can hopefully answer your question next time around.
Yes. Follow us on YouTube and Twitter. Or what do you do on YouTube? Do you follow or you subscribe?
You subscribe. Yes, please subscribe to us on YouTube. Like this video. Spread the word. Let your friends know. Help us get the word out about Epic Battlecry and its return here on YouTube. And follow us on Twitter at EpicBattleAxe. Throw us a question if you'd like to see it answered. Send us a link to a news story if you'd like to see it discussed. We're open 24 hours.
Just I was going to make a mom joke, but it's probably not appropriate.
No.